47th Mr. Irrelevant 2022, with the 262nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select.
The 2022 NFL Draft for the San Francisco 49ers was not great, in all honesty. Of the 9 players drafted, only 4 remain on the team. And of those 4, only 2 of them have been consistent starters for the team. But the draft was notable for one very special reason. They were going to be the last team to draft a player. Now, to understand how they ended up with the last pick in the draft, we have to travel all the way back to 2017. The draft was actually notable for a couple of reasons. One, it was the year they drafted a certain tight end that would end up becoming one of the best 49ers of all time. And the second was the drafting of quarterback CJ Beathard. Now, let's be honest, Beathard didn't exactly set the world on fire during his tenure with the Niners. That honor belongs to that tight end I mentioned earlier, but more on him later. While Beathard would spend 4 seasons in San Francisco and do fairly well, his true worth would not show itself until he left for free agency in 2021 to head to Jacksonville. In return, the 49ers would receive a comp pick in the 2022 draft. And as it happened, that pick was number 262, which meant that San Francisco was getting their very own Mr. Irrelevant. Before we move on, I think it would be relevant to quickly talk about why a quarterback was even chosen to begin with. The 2021 draft was memorable. For some teams, their draft picks gave them certifiable weapons for their offense and defense. Players like Trevor Lawrence, Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons, and Travis Etienne. Even the 49ers had some notable picks in the draft, including Talanoa Hufanga, Elijah Mitchell, Aaron Banks, and perhaps what could end up being the best pick of their draft class that year, Diamador Lenore. Unfortunately for San Francisco, 2021 would also be the year the Niners made arguably the biggest mistake of the Shanahan era. You see, in order to secure a top spot, they traded 3 first-round picks and their 2022 third-round pick to Miami in exchange for their 3rd overall pick. And while many people expected San Francisco to draft Mac Jones, who would eventually end up being drafted by New England, they instead decided to take North Dakota State quarterback Trey Lance. I'll go over the ramifications of this draft pick in a future episode, but let's just say that it was seen as one of the biggest head scratchers in recent memory. He was brought in as a backup to Jimmy Garoppolo and did see limited playing time. He would start for 2 games for the team with the intention of taking over as a full-time starter while Garoppolo would remain as the backup. At the time, it looked like the 49ers had everything they needed to stay competitive for 2022. With 2 quarterbacks already set to play in the 2022 season, they weren't looking to acquire a new one, especially since there were other positions they needed to address. But quarterback coach Brian Griese and pro scout for the Niners Steve Slowick were able to convince the front office that they needed one final piece, and that came in the last round. And not only in the last round, but the final pick of the 2022 NFL Draft.
So the 47th Mr. Irrelevant 2022, with the 262nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Brock Purdy, a quarterback from Iowa State. Go Niners!
With Purdy now drafted, it was time to see if Mr. Irrelevant could make an impact. But with Trey Lance coming back from injury and being named the starter, and Jimmy G set for one last hurrah with the team, it certainly seemed like Purdy would end up fading into the background like the other backups before him. And just like that, the video is done. If you liked what you saw and aren't subscribed, consider doing that now. Also consider leaving a like and comment so that wonderful algorithm stays fed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.